Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in today. These Okuma Coldwater reels have become very popular recently due to their affordability and overall quality. However, they do have a major drawback, and that is their drag. They're known to be very sticky, especially in the cold. And I primarily use mine with dipsy divers, and I think this is where they struggle the most. Let me show you the difference here between an upgraded Coldwater and a non-upgraded one. So as you can see right here, this is a non-upgraded one. I have this pretty much locked. Then I go to pull, no drag comes out, which is fine, that's how it's supposed to work. And here, I'll back it off several turns. I go to pull, still locked. It won't break free. So I loosen even more, and then finally breaks free a little, and then once it's free, it'll go. Then in comparison, we have this one down here that's cinched all the way. Back that off, roughly the same, smooth right away. I don't have that locking happen. And that's very prone to happen when you're running a dipsy diver and you don't want the annoying clicking to happen when you're trolling along. And then when a fish bites, have the drag be completely locked to the point where you completely loosen the drag, and even then it takes a little bit of force to break free. So in that case, the fish won't be able to take the line that it needs to prevent the line from breaking or just the hook from pulling out. And that as a result will cause you to lose more fish. For that reason, my solution was to buy a drag upgrade kit. Bought some drag masters, and you can see right here the models that this applies to. And it was only about a $13 or $14 purchase, but just know that price may go up by the time you guys find them because inflation is so high right now. I will leave a link in the description to these washers. Alright, enough talking. Let's get right to it. Like and subscribe if you found this upgrade video helpful. First line of business, let's get this little screw out. It'll expose the nut. That's out. Let's keep it here for safekeeping. Don't want that rolling around the garage. Take this retaining clip off. Pretty simple, pretty intuitive. Just grab our wrench. You get a 10mm. And we gotta get this bolt off. So hold the reel. You just work it off, and once it's broken free, you should be able to screw it off by hand. There's a bolt, and we almost lost that retaining clip here. Try to keep as much as possible intact so you don't have to remember where it was later when we're reassembling. Got a reel, you can see there's a little washer on there. We'll try to keep that as well. Spring in there, just keep it in there as well. Alright, so that part's done. Let's get these screws out. So here's a smaller one than the others. They're relatively small Phillips. Okay. This piece is off. This is where we're going to do most of our work. Let's get these two screws out. They're on the smaller side, but we have the perfect screwdriver for that. You gotta use a lot of pressure for these. Okay, that one's out. Safe keepings. So next you gotta get the screw out, and to do that you need a crescent wrench, and you gotta slide it on right here on there's two flat edges. So when you get it on there, You want to adjust as tight as it can go, otherwise it'll slip and wreck your threads. So as you hold that, then you go in and twist the screw. Trick is getting that to break through. Break. So now I can spin this out. I honestly thought this is one of the toughest parts, getting that broken free, but as you can see, not that difficult. And then I forgot there's one screw right here as well. If keeping, get this piece off now. There we go, that's where all the goodies are. So now we have another screw right here we gotta take out. It's pretty simple here. This comes off, washer on top there, and then right here, this whole piece comes up and comes out like that, sits like that on there, so keep that together. The next piece here, gotta take this pin out, it's in the center. This pops out right there. Set that aside, and this rolls out. Pay attention to the orientation of that. Next, we gotta push this main assembly out. So we have this line counter gear right there that we gotta get it past. So the trick to getting past that is to push upwards and then rotate until that slides out. This piece right here twists off, and tough when everything's lubed up. It'll come off. We have these washers. They each have a different bow to them, so they alternate. So one bows in, next bows out, next one bows in. I think that's just for a little bit of cushion. Just take those off, put those aside. Next we have the bearing right here. Part of the bearing, I should say. And then this bearing as well. And the inner housing of the bearing, that comes off. Then we finally get to the whole stack of washers here. Let's try to lay it as it came on. Shouldn't matter. So it's the old washer. You can tell when you look at it in person, it's not that high quality, especially after looking at the new upgrade kit. So it's just kind of a smooth, cheap washer. Replace your stock drags, people. Alright, you gotta be really careful with this part. I ran into a nightmare when I did it on my first reel, but I'll show you how to fix it if it happens to you. Another cheap garbage drag washer, super thin. Goodbye. And you can even see a grease, or not even grease mark, just a little edge right there from where that sits. So there we go. And there's one more drag washer on this side I need to show you how to remove. As you can see, in this little hole right here, there's a spring. On the first time I did this, that spring came flying out, so it took me a while to figure out that there's two small pieces that the spring goes in between. And that made the first time doing this take forever. You just got to rotate this till it frees up and comes out. And that's the spring I'm talking about. Just goes in that gap right there. And it looks like it was poorly designed even. This, you can see that little piece right there is like through the spring. That's not how it's supposed to be, so I'll take that out and I'll fix it. The spring up. Alright, the spring did go flying there, so do this in a place where you can't lose it. I luckily found it quick, and I'm not going to try to compress it. This is more of a how not to do this job than it is to do the job, so thanks for sticking along here, guys. There you go, it's installed. This moves, it compresses it, that's how it works. I'm not going to do it again. I learned my lesson. So nothing else you really need to do with this piece. Set that aside. This washer here, look at this. It's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just super smooth. It feels like a hard plastic piece of garbage. Let's get rid of that. No one needs that in their reels. Losing them the 30-pound king that's going to bite this summer. Got our upgrade kit here. Pull out the fresh washers. A little bit thicker, a bit better texture, a lot better all around. Something I want to do really quick is just wipe this down, get the grease off. Installed the other one dry and it's been working really well. So don't need all this extra lube here. Get that wiped off. And then the other pieces as well. Put that on there. Sweet. Let's get reassembled now. Little guy. Back on. Slide it through. Part's done. Washer. Goes in. Another one. These little cleats right here, you want them facing down, so when you put this on, they fit in and they capture the washer, fit in those little grooves. Take our fourth and final, slide it on, there we go. Get our last washer on. Let's get this assembly reassembled. So let's take this here, you gotta rotate until it slides on. And then we gotta take this bearing, slide with the black end, goes face down on here. And I'll see when I took it off. That's what I did. See, this piece can go both ways. Slide that on. Those two on. These three washers back on like they were before. Like I said, some are pointed or flexed in, some are flexed out. So we're all on, we're good here. Let me just screw this piece back on. Now we need to take this piece, we need to reassemble it in here, put it back where it's meant to go. It's about the reverse of what we did to take it out, so just rotate it, try to wiggle it down in. So I'm gonna wreck this line counter gear. So now it's back in. Alright, so we have this piece. Gotta get this back and around this gear right here. So once that's on like that, in its place, just put that pin back in that we took out. It's a completely smooth pin, nothing to it really. So get this seated, boom. Push the pin in all the way. That piece is done. That's all you needed there. You can see right here, this spring fell out. So just spring on each of these screw posts. And then this piece right here that we put on. Goes on like that. It's kind of spring loaded in a sense. That's how that's orientated. Take this piece right here, these triangle pieces, they go downward. Put it over this piece right here, and there's a little screw slot right there. That screw slot, there's a little bronze ring that fell off. Toss that right on. Then we take our screw here that goes above that bronze piece, and the first line of business is we want to put some blue Loctite on there. One thing I noticed is there already was some Loctite on there from the factory, so it indicates that it should have Loctite on it when we put it back together. This is a piece that could fall out and just start rattling around in the reel and causing some damage and probably ruin your weekend of fishing. Then once you have it started, this goes down a ways. And it only goes so tight, otherwise that lever starts moving. We got that piece. That's where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be able to move right there. This piece on right here. This also had Loctite initially, so I'll put a little bit on. Blue Loctite, remember, not red. I want to be able to take it off later potentially. But hopefully, if you do this job well, you never will need to replace the drag again. Screwing this down. Remember, we did use a crescent wrench earlier. Just slide that on. Make sure it's tight on the flat sides. Hold that there. And tighten this down. Which doesn't really need too much. And next we have 3 more screws in this compartment to do. Let's get this little one. Right back in. This one didn't have Loctite on it before, so we'll skip that here. Got that down. That piece is back together. We've got our nice assembly right here, ready to rock. Before we reattach this to the main body of the reel, we want to go in here. You see how there's a little bit of gear exposed. Squirt some Abu Garcia grease here. You can use any gear grease. Get a decent amount in there, and then just spin it around a little bit. It'll get it worked in. Now it's properly lubricated, and your reel will last a long time. Be one of those big kings or going on big long runs. Just have to figure out how it lines up. This pin goes in here. Back together like that. Perfect. It's partially spring loaded, so you just want to kind of hold it together like this, and then start putting the original screws back on. So back in this far right hole, you want to take the smaller of the 4 screws and lock that back down. You can see stuff starting to come together finally. There we go. It's all assembled right there. So our drag disc here. Got this spring right here. Fat end goes into the orange piece. Back on as it was. The spring loader, you gotta turn it so that lines up right here. You just gotta push hard and rotate. Alright, and then we take this washer piece. It's got the silver washer, and then it's the grayish blackish piece. This side's got all those divots. You see a little pin right here. I want the divots down because that helps the drag click into place. Then you have to rotate until this seats. Most of this stuff on this assembly right here, you need to rotate until it falls into place. And of course, we want the reel handle to go back on. Rotate that till it lines up. Washer on the bottom of this, put the nut back on. Screw that on. Tighten it up with the wrench. But you hold the reel as well. So it's going to sink in a ways. There you go. Tighten the drag up. Functioning reel again. Look at that. One last step we have here is to finish the job and get this lined up on the nut. This keeps the nut from coming loose. Wow, what are the chances of that getting that perfectly lined up? Got this already pretty tight. Don't do it too tight. And then before I put that on, a little bit of Loctite on the final screw. And then go ahead, put it in right here. It's important to note that from the factory didn't have Loctite on it, but I like putting it on because I've had these particular screws come loose before and then end up losing that flat washer-like piece. Tighten down pretty good. That's back on. You're good to go. Ready to catch some fish. Last thing I do is get rid of these crappy washers. Forget they ever existed.